All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack what feels like a genuine mystery. What on earth happened in the early 2010s that caused the mental health of an entire generation to, well, just fall off a cliff? We're going to investigate.
So this is really the central question, isn't it? Because for years, things were pretty stable. And then, all of a sudden, in this really short window of time, something fundamentally changed for young people. And the data, well, the data tells a pretty shocking story.
Okay, here's our first big clue. And what's just so striking is the shape of these lines on the graph. You can see that after years of just kind of bouncing around a pretty narrow range, the rates of major depression for teens just shoot straight up, especially for girls. This hockey stick curve, kicking off right around 2012, is really the signature of this whole crisis. And look, this isn't just about kids saying they feel sadder. This next piece of evidence is about a huge change in behavior. We're looking at emergency room visits for self-harm among girls between 10 and 14 years old. The rate nearly tripled in about a decade. This is a massive, undeniable signal that the level of suffering went through the roof.
So, we have a clear picture of the situation. A sudden, massive surge in mental illness. So let's start unpacking the evidence, almost like we're detectives. What exactly happened? Who did it happen to? And where did it happen?
Right, so any theory that's going to solve this mystery, it has to explain these three key facts. The problem is specifically a surge in anxiety and depression. It's hitting Gen Z, that's kids born after 1995, the hardest. And, this is really important, it is not just an American problem. Let's break each of those down. First up, the what. The spike is almost entirely in what mental health professionals call internalizing disorders. Basically, that means conditions where distress is turned inward. So we're talking about feelings of fear, worthlessness, sadness, hopelessness. You can see it so clearly here. Diagnoses for anxiety and depression on college campuses just exploded, while other issues saw way smaller changes.
Next, the who. Now this chart really shows the generational divide perfectly. Just look at the lines for the different age groups reporting high anxiety. The two oldest groups, basically flat. But that line for the youngest adults, Gen Z, it takes off like a rocket right after 2012. So whatever was going on, it was laser-focused on the young.
And finally, the where. This wasn't something happening in just one place. That same sharp drop in teen mental health, with the exact same timing, popped up all across the English-speaking world and even beyond. From the US and Canada to the UK and Scandinavia, the pattern is just eerily similar. That points to a global cause.
Okay, so what could possibly cause such a widespread and sudden change? Well, like in any good investigation, before we point fingers at the main culprit, we have to rule out some of the other usual suspects.
Now, a really common theory you hear is that kids are anxious because of the economy. You know, financial instability, a tough job market, student debt. It sounds pretty plausible, right? But let's see what the data actually says.
Yeah, the timeline just completely falls apart. Check out the unemployment rate here in gray. It peaked in 2010 and then went down, down, down for the whole decade. But teen depression, those other lines, it did the exact opposite. It just kept climbing. So the key takeaway is, as the economy got better, teen mental health got worse. It's not the economy.
All right, what about other big, scary things like climate change or political division? Well, according to Jonathan Haidt's research, that's not how we usually respond to big collective threats. Historically, when we face a challenge together, like a war or a big social movement, it tends to energize us and bring us closer. The kind of lonely, isolating anxiety we're seeing here, that's something else entirely.
So, if it's not the economy and it's not big world events, what is it? All the evidence starts to point to one single, massive environmental change that happened to teenagers everywhere all at the same time. Haida has a name for it: the Great Rewiring of Childhood.
So right between 2009 and 2012, you get this perfect storm of technological changes. Suddenly, social media wasn't just for keeping up with friends. It became a stage where you performed for public metrics, thanks to things like the like and retweet buttons. Then front-facing cameras and Instagram came along and just threw gasoline on the fire of this new culture of constant self-display and comparison. And all of this happened right as the crisis was starting.
And this is the chart that really puts it all together. Just look at the adoption curve for the smartphone. It's the steepest line on there, which means it was adopted faster than any technology in human history. And when does that super steep climb happen? Right between 2010 and 2015, the exact same window as the Great Rewiring and the explosion in mental illness. The timing is a perfect match.
The scale of this rewiring is it's staggering. Get this. By 2022, the number of teens who said they were online almost constantly had soared to 46%. Think about that. Nearly half of an entire generation living in a state of perpetual, constant online connection.
Jonathan Haidt uses this really powerful metaphor to capture just how radical this shift was. He says it's not like they just got a new toy. They were moved to a completely new environment for human development, one we had absolutely no preparation for. It was, as he puts it, like they were the first generation to grow up on Mars.
So in just a handful of years, childhood completely shifted from being play-based to being phone-based. The old way was physical, in-person, social, full of real-world trial and error. This new one? It's disembodied, performed for an audience online, and often characterized by kind of shallow, disposable connections. And here's the crazy paradox. Kids were given almost total freedom in this new virtual world while being more and more overprotected in the real one, losing all those chances to build resilience and independence.
But you know what? The story doesn't have to end here. If we manage to rewire childhood once by accident, we can absolutely choose to rewire it again, this time on purpose. So what's the path forward?
Based on all this evidence, Haidt proposes 4 big foundational changes to build a healthier childhood for the digital age. First, no smartphones before high school. Give them basic phones instead. Second, no social media before age 16. Third, get the phones completely out of schools. And finally, fourth, give kids back way more unsupervised play and independence in the real world.
Now, this is the really crucial part. Any single family trying to do this alone is going to have an incredibly hard time. It's socially isolating for the kid. But these reforms actually become pretty easy if parents, schools, and whole communities decide to act together, creating new, healthier norms for everyone.
You know, the Great Rewiring happened with breathtaking speed. It totally changed what it means to grow up. But that speed also proves that massive change is possible. So the question it leaves us with is, what kind of childhood do we want to build next?